favorite Christmas movies? Do you have one?
Elf.
Elf. All right. Yeah.
Elf is my favorite
Santa.
Christmas
I
gift.
know him.
Exactly. I
Uh,
know it should be something sentimental like It's a Wonderful Life, but I love Elf.
yeah. I like Elf, but I do like It's a Wonderful Life, and it was
Yeah.
very fun. We closed on a transaction this week, and the mom and dad showed up for the first-time home buyers when we gave them the keys, and the dad and mom recited those lines from when um, George Bailey and his wife are giving the new homeowners the bread of life and
Mhm.
the wine that there'd be celebration. Except I think you forgot the salt, but either way, it was
And it was a loaf of garlic bread.
yeah, but it was very
Still in
touching.
the wrapper.
It's one of the best things, right? When you know that
Yeah.
people are going to be starting their life together, and well, I mean, the couple have been married for 5 years, but they're gonna,
Yeah.
this new home, and it's theirs, and they can paint the walls. Anyway, very
Yeah.
excited. This is the real story with Adam and Sherry. I'm Adam Hamalian,
And I'm Sherry Hutchens.
and this is where two broker associates talk about all things real estate. Hey, Sherry.
Hey, Adam, how are you?
I'm good. That was a really long intro about the movies, but it was such a fun way to end the year, kind of business wise here, where this is
Yeah.
the third week of December. We are just a week away from Christmas and then New Year's, and usually a time of the year where there's not a lot of activity for buyers and sellers. And so to be
Mhm.
able to have a closing this late, I mean, first time home buyers are always special, but to, do it right before the holidays and just
Yeah.
just really special.
Yeah, it was fun to hand off those keys and have them be so excited
Yeah.
to have a new house. Too bad they're not going to move in and be in the house for Christmas, but they can look forward to that next year.
Yep. Yeah. Now they want to do a little painting and a couple things like that to
Hmm.
really, and there was just too much rush to get it done here between now and Christmas. But they did put some outdoor Christmas decorations up. They brought a Christmas wreath and a poinsettia for the front porch.
Yep, yep. Well, they've got stiff competition in that neighborhood because all the neighbors really go all out. And I was over there. I don't think you were there. I think you were still in Scotland, but the neighbors came over and introduced themselves at one point and said, we decorate. It's like, okay, we got the
Good.
hint.
And that neighbor across the street, his house is well decorated.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's a great street.
yeah.
They bought the right house. I love that when that happens. It
Yep.
happens all the time. We don't let people buy the wrong houses.
We try not to.
We
Yeah.
try not to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is our last episode of 2025, and so I thought
yeah.
we'd do a little bit of market recap for the year, maybe what's happening in general, and then maybe more specifically in our market, and maybe a little bit about what we do,
Yep.
and maybe some of the major changes. So, kind of from a national standpoint, how would you describe the market in 2025?
I think from a national standpoint, it's safe to say that the market was flat this year. But I always like to follow that up by saying real estate is local. So what's happening here is different than what's happening even in other parts of the Bay Area.
Yeah. All
How
right.
would you describe
Well, I was going to say with that segue, you're going to now have to tell me about the Bay Area, the market in the East Bay, Contra Costa, Alameda counties.
it?
Speaking about local, how would you describe our local market?
I think it's a property by property situation and an agent by agent situation. We're seeing some agents who don't have a lot of experience and therefore not a good pipeline struggling. And really, I mean, we have someone, that we met with a couple days ago that has not sold a house in 8 months. And I've been there, during the recession, I experienced that. It's no fun to be in that position.
Yeah.
But I think we had a pretty good year, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, so volume wise, meaning the number of sales,
Hmm.
both buyers and sellers, we were slightly up from 2024, which
Hmm.
is not industry average. So that felt
Yeah.
well, a lot of gratitude for that. And commission wise, it ended up being about the same. Our
Mhm.
average price point was a little bit lower, but no complaints. We made a living this year, and a lot of agents didn't. You might remember that I joined one of the committees down at the Realtor board, and they were talking about budget for the local board, and they were expecting as many as 30% of agents to not renew their MLS dues this year, that they're just getting out of real estate and doing something different.
Yeah, one of the things that happens in real estate is that when the market goes up, up, up at the degree that it was over the last few years, um, is that it looks really easy and everybody decides to go get their license and sell real estate, and get rich quick. And that's fine as long as the market is barreling along and anybody can sell a house. But when it normalizes, like we've seen in the last year, it's hard to make a living if you don't have some sort of an established base of clients.
Yeah.
And we saw a lot of that this year.
And then not only not having an established base of clients, but actually have a thorough knowledge of the market and of homes, because after all, we are helping to sell homes.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of agents who they think about selling houses as what is pretty, but there's a whole lot more. The pretty stuff is the easy stuff.
Yeah.
But like what makes a good house, we talk about having good bones, but it's even more complicated than that because now you've got insurance issues and high fire zones and some other dynamics like that that come into play on affordability, which I know it's a
Yeah.
buzzword in national news right now, but just
Yeah.
in reality, what does it cost to own a house as opposed to just to buy it? And more experienced agents are able to navigate that. I think that
Hmm.
if we look at the Contra Costa market, we would see that the average price was down a little bit, a couple percentage points from a year ago,
Hmm.
and the number of transactions was similar. But in the midst of that, you'd still find some homes that sold over asking in a short amount of time. And of course, that
Hmm.
has a lot to do with the listing price
Yeah.
that the seller and their agent have decided upon.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a lot of motivation to, I need to move on to the next chapter of my life. Let's list it low and hopefully it'll bid up. And those sell quickly. And then there's other times where the seller has got an expectation of what they need to get out of the house,
Hmm.
and in a slightly declining market, sometimes that's a challenge to identify that healthy list price, because if you miss it, it could just sit for a while. And average days on market in our area was up
Hmm.
over 30 days, where it had been
Yeah.
in the teens for the last 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
since the pandemic. And so that was just also a little strange how to be prepared. It's going to take longer.
Yeah. 30 days is an eternity
Yeah. No, I
compared to
mean,
what
not
we've been going
historically and not across the country, just in the Bay Area.
just in the Bay Area. Yeah. I mean, I think in other parts of the country, it can take 90, 120, 180 days to sell a house, if not longer. Yeah, I
I,
think that,
It
go ahead.
speaks to the housing shortage that we have here in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
and there's lots of places where you can lay the blame for that. We're starting to see a few more um, legislative tools be offered for local municipalities to help increase that. So, like for instance, ADUs cannot be restricted locally. That if there's space and otherwise room for an ADU, the cities have to allow that. So we started to see some inventory of those things go up. And one thing that was new this year is that the ADUs have been greenlit to be sold separately from the home. So a condo type of ownership where you own the
Mhm.
space of that ADU, but not the land under it.
Yeah.
And so I haven't actually, we haven't done any of those transactions, but those are just a couple examples of how they're trying to increase housing units in a built out area like the Bay Area.
So let me understand this correctly. There's a house sitting on a lot. I think it's got to be a minimum size. Let's say 20.25 acre. I'm not sure what the minimum is. And somebody drops an ADU into the backyard. And I think I hear you saying that legislation has passed that allows the person who put that ADU back there to sell it as a separate property.
That's right. I mean, there's requirements. It's got to have its own meters, gas and sewer and water and electric, all of that. But that it could be sold separately from the main house, which would include, easements and access and probably a dedicated parking spot, but maybe not, depending on where it is. So yeah, there's definitely some requirements that you can't just do it willy-nilly, and you've got to file it and get an APN number and things like that.
That is a complicated transaction,
Yeah.
especially the first time it sells.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So many things to think about, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Wow. Well, if we have a housing problem, that those kind of things will help, increase houses for people.
Yeah. Um, what else has kind of been different this year as we think about
Mhm.
the macro? We've been working with the buyer broker agreement, buyer
Mhm.
broker compensation
Yeah, tell me more about that.
agreement. Yeah, so a year ago, August, there was
Mhm.
a settlement of a lawsuit that had been pending for a long time. And one of the things that really was trying to look out for the consumer, for buyers in particular, but also sellers, is that commission for the buyer's agent was separated out from the listing agreement and that the buyers got to decide with their agents what their pay is. Now,
Mhm.
it's negotiable from a standpoint of there's not a prescribed fee set by any legislation or municipality. Most agents have a number that they'll work for. It's Sherry and I included, and so we sign that agreement when buyers hire us, and they don't pay us till escrow closes, but it's an agreement that we're going to work for them, and it outlines the arrangements of what it means to have an agent and our fiduciary responsibility, which representing their best interests and all of that. And then they agree to compensate us at the end of the transaction for whatever that fee is. And initially, it was they thought that it might lower commissions, and
Mhm.
the best stats that is being put out by national surveys that are being doing is that the commission has been the same, or if anything, slightly up,
Mhm.
which is really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, I think that working with buyers is really a lost space for distinguishing ourselves as agents.
Mhm.
One of the things that you and I have advantage of is not only do we have a broker's license, but our experience. And then you've got a longer experience of time, so you've seen different markets. So things like this, where we've had a transition in market, you have experience to help buyers navigate it a little bit
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
And I bring a little bit of my experience from construction background and how houses are built, and a better idea than an average agent about how the house cost of ownership and maintenance and things like that. And I found it pretty easy to differentiate ourselves from most of the market out there because of those
Yeah.
two particular skill sets.
Well,
Um,
most agents don't have your background in construction management, and they spend years learning about houses, and you came into the business already knowing that, which was a great advantage to both buyers and sellers, but especially buyers.
yeah. I think one of the things that's been interesting this year is we've worked with sellers as well as
Hmm.
helping them figure out how to, in this more evening market. So, I mean, I
Hmm.
guess we should start with that before I go into the what sellers are needing to do. So, it's been a good market from the standpoint of buyers and sellers have been on more equal footing. It had been
Hmm.
so much in the buyers corner up until about 18 months ago or so, maybe a little longer.
Yeah.
Um, and that buyers were just having to say, "Here, take all my money, and I'll name my child after you,"
Yes.
or whatever it was. And so they weren't able to ask for repairs. They weren't able to ask for concessions. Oftentimes, needing to resort to writing non-contingent because the seller had done pre-sale inspections,
Yeah.
but maybe not all the ones they wanted to. And so this last year has been really great for buyers in that they have been able to write contingent offers. I want to do my own inspections. I
Hmm.
saw you did a home and pet inspection, but I'd like to find out about the roof or the chimney or the
Yeah.
pool or something else. So
Yeah.
they've been able to do a more thorough investigation, and sometimes those investigations have shown light on some new repairs or something that's needed. And so they've been able to negotiate credits from the sellers.
Yeah.
Um, and sellers have sometimes been giving into it and sometimes not. And that's part of what's made this year really interesting, is that we actually have had to do negotiating between all parties to see what was going to happen.
Yeah. We just went through that. We offered on a house that had inspections, pre-sale inspections, and the buyers elected to do their own inspections. And we went back and negotiated a pretty significant credit from the seller because we discovered things wrong with the house that their inspector had missed. So, I think in 2022, when the interest rate shot up, what, 7 times or something like that, everything came to a screeching halt. But in 2023, buyers had what I call a reality check. And they were like, I need to buy a house. It's never going back to 3. I'm going to jump into the market. What what is kind of missing from that here in 2025 or as we enter into 2026 is that sellers haven't quite had that same reality check. So some sellers, like the one where we got the credit, the significant credit, they wanted to sell this house. And they understood what they had to do to make a fair, balanced deal between buyer and seller. Many sellers are still living in a reality of the 2021 prices, and they think if they wait long enough, somebody's going to come along and offer that price to them, and it's not going to happen. The
Yeah.
market has changed. So,
Yeah, it has. So what would you suggest to sellers as we look forward to here in the 2026?
mhm,
Um, I don't think I see any radical changes happening in the immediate future, but as sellers begin to think about preparing their homes to sell in the spring market, what do you think that they should be doing? I mean, should they be doing everything to make their house look as more desirable than anything else? Should they be cautious about spending money because they might not get it back? Do you have thoughts
mhm.
about that?
I do have thoughts about that. I think that the first thing we have to do as agents is to assess their motivation. Are they absolutely intent on selling that house? Are they moving? Are they selling for someone who's passed away or gone into assisted living? Or do they have the option of not, of if they don't get their price, to take it off the market and rent it or stay living in it and just delay their move? And it's really incumbent upon agents to determine that, because when you get into a situation where you're going over comparable sales with a seller, you've got to go into a lot of detail in this market so that the house is priced right. Otherwise, it's going to just sit there. Buyers are very savvy about prices, and they know when something is overpriced. 5 years ago, three years ago, we could do any price we wanted. We could have priced a house for $1, and it would have sold for what it was meant to sell for. It's not that way now. So sellers need to be, at the risk of sounding condescending, educated about the market in great detail. And the CMA presentation, comparable market analysis presentation during a listing appointment, has got to be very, very, very thorough, so the sellers understand really what the right price is. We're not trying to give away houses. People always accuse agents of giving away houses so we get paid sooner. That's not what we do. It is our job to price a house so that the seller makes the most amount of money possible on the sale of their home. That is our fiduciary duty to them. We're not trying to give it away. But it doesn't do them any good when we overprice something by $100,000 or more and it just sits there.
Yep.
Everybody's unhappy at that point.
Yep. I think that one of the things that you mentioned that's kind of interesting is what is their time frame about actually needing to sell it in a market like this that's transitional or even that being patient can pay off, and especially here at the end of the year, there's not as many shoppers out there, but and so being able to say, yeah, I can wait till the spring to relist it and allow the house to sit vacant or minimally occupied in the
Mhm.
meantime can help buyers bridge some of that uncertainty. But I do think it's interesting that we've seen more buyers willing to buy something that needed some work than we have in a while.
Yeah.
I think that when people think they're getting a bargain as opposed to, or not a bargain necessarily, but not having to pay every last dollar that they have, they've got some more capacity to do some sweat equity and do the paint job or do the flooring themselves.
Yep.
So there might be some more leeway for the right priced house to not have to do as much.
Yep.
And it's case by case. It's not a blanket recommendation for any particular house. But I think we're seeing some more of that. And like you said, seeing what's the whole package. Because while the financial responsibility is everyone's usually most important priority, there are some other aspects of other priorities that need to be in play.
hmm So you asked me a question that I did not answer. I kind of skirted around it and on to another topic. But should a seller update their house? And how far should they go? How far should they go?
Yeah. So, kind of as a blanket statement, houses need to look clean, and nobody wants to buy a house that has somebody else's dirt in it. That's a
Mhm.
huge, buyers will hugely discount that. And so you say, well, who sells a dirty house? No, I said it can't look dirty. It's not that it's
Mhm.
dirty. Um, we usually negotiate that we will pay to have the house cleaned professionally before we hit the market,
Mhm.
whether we're staging or not, just because we know how important that is. But what people don't always appreciate is that needing to paint pretty thoroughly is a really big important thing to do to make it look clean. Because
Yeah.
all those paintings that have been on the wall, you've been dusting the top edge of it, and what you didn't realize is that you were rubbing a little bit of oil into the wall at the top edge of where that paint is. And so you, even if that paint hasn't faded, you've been rubbing dirt into the wall for, the last 20 years. And so needing you can't just clean those walls. You need to patch the nail holes and paint. And so if you're going to paint all the walls, you might as well paint the trim because you've been brushing up against those door jambs, or your pet has and left
Yep.
a dark mark. So
Yeah.
paint is always going to be on our list of recommendations. Very few houses don't need paint.
Yeah, I agree.
It-
It's the quickest way to give your house an update and probably the least expensive way to give your house an update.
yeah, yeah. And I think that the paying attention to a few things like the front door, first impressions.
Mhm.
So having if you do your own landscaping, having somebody who's got a little bit more thorough hand come in and freshen up the front yard and for sure. And then maybe depending on your backyard situation, clean up the backyard. I think those will always be important. I like painting the front door as long as we're painting.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like my low-hanging fruit that I think most sellers should do. And then as we get into specific houses and situations, there's all sorts of things you could do. I think that the days of redoing kitchens and bathrooms are on pause for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Um,
Agree.
the exception might be if there was just something that looked unusable. We might have a conversation about that.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to know where to draw that line.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, sometimes it's really obvious, like the house, the fixer we sold over in Concord a few years ago. We just cleaned it up the best we could and got rid of all the belongings. And we did have to throw the appliances away because they were so hideous. But it was very clear what that house needed, and that was nothing.
yes, yeah, right. We needed to take the rodent carcass out of caught on the trap. We need to get rid of that.
Oh,
But
oh, yes.
and then
Yes, we
clean it.
did.
Yeah, and then clean the house. Yeah.
And clean it. Our poor housekeeper, I can't even imagine what it was like to clean that
She
house,
still
but
talks to us.
she does, she does. And we got 56 offers on it.
Yeah. Um,
But who's counting?
yeah, yeah. So, I think the other thing that's been interesting this year, we look back, is we had kind of alluded to the more negotiating happening, and we had a couple of transactions that were pretty challenging, and it
Hmm.
had less to do with the house and more to do with the agent on the other side.
Yeah,
And our ethics prevent us from talking negatively about other agents.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes when agents aren't paying attention to the details, and it can be a problem. And I think that you and I really value professionalism in our industry. And so this is my segue into the new role that we have this year. We were asked by our broker to step in. You want to tell them if you could remember our title, our new title, so what
oh
role
yes,
we
we
step
have a
into?
new, so we're still selling real estate, but in addition to that, we have a new title, which is Co-Directors of Agent Development.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's agent development co-directors. Remember, we couldn't
Okay.
put directors first for whatever reason. I
Yeah.
forgot. I can't remember what that was.
Yeah, yeah, I think we paid far too much attention to what the title was, but what is the meaning of it?
Okay, Sherry, what is the meaning of it?
We are going to be training agents who come to Dudum as new agents, and we're going to be coaching them, training. We're going to be training them. I keep differentiating between training and coaching because there's a difference.
Yeah.
And then we are also going to be available to established agents or people who've been selling for a few years but feel like they need to grow their business. And we will help them make their business better
Yeah.
and more productive. So did I miss anything?
No, that's it. I mean, it's we were going all around in discussion about this with our broker about what she was asking us to do, and we kept training, mentoring, and coaching, and kind of distinguishing between those three.
Hmm.
And so I'm really excited. We got to do a couple trainings, group trainings this year
Hmm.
for our whole brokerage. And then
Yeah.
we met with about 20 agents individually to help them do business planning for next year. And then a handful of those are going to be working with us for an extended period of time. And it's, that there's a kind of a three-legged stool, the way I think about it, that we're trying to work with agents on. And so one is professionalism. We want the agents that we work with, we want all agents, but particularly the ones we work with to be the most knowledgeable, the most equipped, the most highly refined skills in the industry, so that when clients work with our agents, they have the most satisfying experience. And when agents on the other side work with us, they get the most professional interaction from our side of the transaction, because all of those levels of professionalism helps the transaction go smoother, brings clarity within the contract, and
Hmm.
helps clients both on our side of the transaction and the other have a good experience.
Yeah.
The second stool is say it, agent satisfaction. I've been trying to figure out the best way to refer to that as we've been talking about it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But basically, we want the agents to feel good at the end of the day. Like, I did a good job today. So how will agents know that they've done a good job? What are the goals that they should set for themselves so that when they reach them, they feel like they're really really satisfied with how they're doing. And a lot, mainly that focuses around service, but it's
Hmm.
also having a knowing that the why we're in real estate, and the why can't be about making money. The why has to be about the clients having the best experience possible. And then the third leg of the stool, you and I believe, are a result of those first two and not really the actual goal, and that's
Hmm.
income. We want agents to be able to put food on their plate and
Yeah.
have time and money to go on vacations and
Yeah.
save for retirement. And just like any other job that's out there,
Yeah.
there's a perception that real estate agents make a lot of money and don't do a lot of work. And there are some that are like that. But the reality is that most agents work very hard, long
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
and don't get paid until the transaction's closed. And this year, there was a lot of transactions that didn't close.
Yeah.
Um, and like we mentioned earlier, there's 30 to 40% of agents did not make a living, and that they've moved on to find income some other way. So our
Yeah.
goal as agent development co-directors is to help the agents that work with Dudum increase their professionalism and their job satisfaction, and those two
Mhm.
things together hopefully will lead to a viable income.
Yeah, I know this is a passion of yours. In fact, you're doing some education next year around coaching and some fairly significant classes around coaching.
Yep.
I always say I'm not a coach, I'm a teacher. I like to teach people how to do, I don't know, our organization system and things like that. I'm not as good at the coaching as you are. So,
Well, you are very good at teaching, and people love seeking you out in your systems, and like I said, your 25 years of experience in various markets, and so your knowledge base exceeds almost everybody except for maybe Terry Lynn at Dudum.
yeah.
And so I'm hoping that I can at least offer a little bit of inspiration along the way and
Oh,
mindset, and help people explore what their own purpose is so that they do feel good about what they're doing. Because, there's more to work than getting a paycheck. We usually tell people we can make a living in a lot of different ways. You and I choose to do real estate because helping people get a new home or sell their family home, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction in the being able to help people do that.
And in this case, having this new role within the company, there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction to watch an agent go out and succeed. Like we did some coaching at the end of last year and one of the agents got back on track after being in the business as a partner with her mother for many years. And the other agent had been in the business for about 5 years and just wasn't quite up to speed. And it is such a thrill to watch them go out and succeed and well thrive,
Yeah.
really go out and do what they've always wanted to do. So that just brings me a lot of satisfaction, and I am sure it does you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
So I understand that rumor has it that we're going to have a second podcast related to.
That I was just about to mention that. I'm glad you said that. So this
Okay.
podcast, The Real Story with Adam and Sherry, we have been standing with feet in two, for those of you who've been listening, know in two worlds, both reaching out to clients, potential home buyers and owners and sellers, and then also talking to agents. And it's always been a little muddled. Maybe you've experienced that as you've listened to us. And so what we're going to be doing in the new year is we're actually going to be spinning off a second podcast that will be in a
Mhm.
separate subscription feed so that they don't get intertwined. You're
Mhm.
welcome to subscribe to both or either one, whichever one makes sense. And the
Yeah.
second one is going to be, I don't know that we've fully landed on the
Yeah.
title, but
I don't
probably
know
the
if we have
real
any,
story coaching. I think that's what we talked about, but that'll be
something
aimed
like that.
towards agents, passing down some wisdom, giving insight, talking about the hot topics,
Yeah.
problems in transactions, everything that's geared towards agents, whether they're new or experienced, and having those conversations. And so we'll be doing this one every other week, and then in alternating weeks in a different subscription will be for the agents. And we're really looking forward. We're going to start having some more guests on both podcasts.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe because you're tired of listening to us, we've ran out of stories. Um, but we're going to have for you all, we are going to continue to have things like lenders and insurance brokers and designers. We'll probably have another conversation about solar at some point, maybe
Inspectors.
ADUs. We have inspectors.
Yeah.
We already have on the calendar a conversation with the um, a county assessor candidate going to
Yeah.
run against, maybe not against Gus Kramer, uh, but he currently works in the office. So that's going to be interesting to talk about his philosophy and what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
And then on the agent one, like I said, we're going to dive into some more agent specific topics, and we're going to have some experienced agents, not just from our brokerage, come
Hmm.
on and learn about how people organize their business, the things that they're focusing on. And I think it'll be really exciting. I'm looking forward to those conversations, but I think it'll be exciting for you if you're an agent, and possibly if you're a client, if you want to look behind the curtain and
Yeah.
see what's going on.
So I have this great idea for those of you who are listening or watching on YouTube. You can see that we're in two different locations. We share an office, but we can't record in the same office. Adam's at his office in Lafayette. I'm at my home and in my home office. But I think we should go to the boss and say we need a studio and get one of those setups like the Kelsey brothers have, where they've got those easy chairs and they're sitting across from each other chatting.
So they're not. No, I mean they're at their own homes.
Oh, I thought they were sitting across from each other
No,
at times.
no, I mean no, because no, Jason is in Philly and Travis is in
Oh,
Kansas City.
oh, I
But
forgot. I forgot about that.
there's plenty of podcasts that do have conversation pits.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, we definitely could do that.
there's
Uh,
got to be an office somewhere that we can do a setup.
yeah, no, well, she had one and then nobody used it, and now Kent's in it.
Oh, darn. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yeah, it
Yeah,
didn't
well,
have good
we could
acoustics.
we could figure it out
Yeah,
though.
we'll figure something out. Couple big easy chairs, some microphones. Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that we're gonna have to have multiple cameras though. That's the trick with that, because you got to have the camera that's focused, a camera for each person.
All right. Well, you're really good at that stuff, so I'll just let you figure it out and I'll reap the
All right,
benefits.
all right. Uh, All right. So I think we covered 2025, 2026.
Yep.
I think will be an interesting year for buyers and sellers. It continues to probably be an even market. Interest rates will probably still hover around six for the year.
Yep.
Even if the Fed lowers the rate, that those are not directly related to mortgage rates.
Yep.
Um, and based on other factors, it probably won't be, they might get to five and three quarters, but they'll probably bounce around six plus or minus,
Yeah.
which historically is a good place to be.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
rate. It's not 3%, but it's a really good rate.
Yeah, and so if you find yourself needing to buy or sell this next year, you should not be afraid of it. It's going to be, you just need to have a good agent who's going to help you navigate and negotiate.
Yep. Hire the right
Uh,
agent.
yeah, and we look forward to, a robust 2026, both with other agents, but also in our own business, helping you all get
Yep.
where you want to go.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All right. Dorothy was right, especially in a year where we had Wicked 2. Dorothy, Dorothy was right. There's no place like home. We'll see you next year. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.